Hey everybody, this is Ryan Deal with 605 Sports. We are here with Heath Nimke and Cole Larsch with liveticket.tv. How are you doing, guys?
Doing great. Looking forward to this. Looking forward to just basketball season, or I should say, a postseason in general. Just fingers crossed we can navigate through all the weather. It's not if it's going to happen, but just navigating through it at this point. So excited to be with you once again, Ryan.
Absolutely. Cole, what about you? Kind of your first go around at this, so to say. You've been seeing a lot of teams this year with your live ticket responsibility. Is you having fun and everything?
Absolutely. I mean, this is great. I always say that this is probably one of the best opportunities I've had so far in my life and my career. And it's just great because I know that 3 or 4 times a week I can just go and watch basketball somewhere like it's nothing else. And it wouldn't be postseason basketball without a blizzard coming in. So that's about where my thoughts are at right now.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we'll see what the weather brings over the next couple of days and everything. But we're going to talk some Class A and Class B girls basketball regions. Going to be tipping off here later today and tomorrow and everything. We kind of break down maybe a Class A to start, just kind of a general overview, I guess. Class A, Hamlin's kind of risen to the top, beating some good teams throughout the year. Beat Vermilion, who at the time, that was number one against number two. But after that, I think it's just a lot of teams kind of right there, kind of fighting for positioning and everything. Class A, Heath, how do you see kind of Class A shaping up and everything?
Yeah, Class A got really interesting towards the end. Like you mentioned, I don't know when last round we could look at a season actually say it kind of went chalk to the first or three teams there. Vermilion beats Wagner. So that's, at that time it was an upset, but then get Vermilion all the way up to number two. And then eventually Hamlin beats Vermilion. So it's like 1, 2, 3. That was your obvious. And then we had this whole entire, and Cole and I get to see it a lot, the DAC-12. It seems like the cream of the crop was starting to rise in the DAC-12 once again, starting to make some late noise with Sioux Falls Christian girls that they were coming in late. Of course, St. Thomas More, defending champs, you know what they're capable of doing. So it seemed like 1, 2, 3 this year was kind of obvious, but after that, you look at 4 through 8, and I know this will be coming up a little bit more, but I don't think it's as clear cut of a champion this year, or even 1, 2, 3 of winning the championship this year as we might think. So I think it's going to be interesting in Class A.
Yeah, I remember last year, Class A, St. Thomas More, like you said, ended up winning it. And they're obviously a traditional power, but they were the 4 seed, I believe. And I think that was probably a little bit of a surprise at the time. So I think in Class A, it's going to be fun to see these regions shake out and see how some of these things go as we get going here. Cole, in Class A, what really kind of stands out to you, I guess?
Well, kind of like what Heath was saying earlier, it seems like, it kind of went chalk for a while. Then all of a sudden you see these 8, 9, 10 teams that all of a sudden could win it all. I mean, you look, Hamlin obviously is your clear number one, haven't lost a game yet. But then after that, you look, Vermilion could win it, Wagner, Sioux Falls Christian, St. Thomas More. You can just keep going down the list. Any of the 8 teams that make it can win it. And you're saying that maybe some of those top 10 teams, maybe top 15 teams don't even make it into the state tournament because they have tough region games. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, lots of games to look forward to so far coming up in regions, but I still think Hamlin is kind of the favorite going into the state tournament weekend.
Yeah. And let's talk about some of those regions. You guys are familiar with, probably, like you said, the DAC-12 teams and some of those teams down in that region 4A. You look at that region, Vermilion, kind of snuck up and came out of nowhere. They've been a really fun story this year, but you look at that potential matchup they could have against T area. Heath, you got to be kind of licking your chops at that possibility and everything.
Yeah, I think if you don't follow along, let's reset this whole entire matchup. But Vermilion's going to get by Parker. And then from there, it's going to be Vermilion versus T area. And if you're just a scoreboard watcher, you look quickly, I'm at the score, you see first time around, you go, well, Vermilion got by T area very, very easily. Shouldn't even be interesting of a game. Vermilion on to the Sodak 16. Well, there was so much more to that story because the game was moved up. What was it? 36 hours or so. It moved up from a Tuesday night to a Monday afternoon to try to get through a snowstorm. At that time, Katie Vasika wasn't playing because she had an injury. She was okay to come back, but they didn't necessarily want to rush her back. They wanted to make sure she's good to still play for South Dakota State next year. So there was just like this whole bunch of, and then, playing in Thunder Alley, there's just so much unknown. Vermilion has a hot shooting performance. They put T to bed immediately in that first half, and then just put it on cruise control in the second half. Now this is a much more experienced T area team. They play a lot more AA teams. They played some of the toughest competitors out there. Going to be very, very interesting, very, very exciting. And then Vasika, and I think that's been the Achilles heel of Vermilion all season long against Wagner. They lost at Hamlin because of it. The size inside, and Vasika is that size inside, but then also has that presence to step out and shoot the three. There's a reason she's going to South Dakota State. And then, I won't get too much into it, but I think Vermilion is going to have actually a road that could put them playing multiple DAC 12 teams. If they're able to get by T area, I think another DAC 12 team could be waiting them in the SODAC 16. And that is a team that for the first time this year, head coach John Brooks got his first ever win against this team. It's been a long goal of his to get a win against that team. So Vermilion, as much as I love the Vermilion girls, I know the fans are going to be out there watching. I know it's going to be a very, very tough path for them to just even get to state. They probably have the toughest path out of the three teams to get to state.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, if Vermilion gets there, that they're definitely gonna earn it. What about you, Cole? Any potential region matchups or anything in general you're looking forward to over the next couple of days and everything?
Well, I think, kind of piggybacking, I've been following Vermilion this whole season, but you look at that T EPJ game, we're assuming that T is going to win. But if EPJ somehow pulls that one out, it took last second free throws for Vermilion to beat EPJ during the regular season. So no matter what path they have, it's going to be tough. And like I said, the possibility of playing West Central, another DAC 12 team in the SODAC 16. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. I mean, you look at some key matchups in other regions. I mean, you look at Region 2, Florence Henry and Flandreau. I mean, Flandreau came out. They lost 3 of their first 4 games of the season, and then they're 16-4 to end it. They're definitely going to be a team to watch out of that region too. I mean, there's plenty of matchups that we can look at and we can kind of nitpick here, but I think many of the big ones are going to be in Region 4 and Region 2.
Absolutely. That Flandreau Florence Henry game. I've seen those teams play this year a couple different times, and that I really have that one kind of circled as well. That I think that'd be a fun one to keep an eye on if it happens. In Region 5A, you're kind of neck of the woods there, Cole. Parkston, Hanson, MVP Wagner. So, I mean, I think obviously Wagner is kind of risen to the top of that region, but I think after that, I mean, it's kind of even amongst some of those teams. So I think that Region 5A is one I'm kind of going to keep an eye on too over the next couple of days and everything. I guess in Class B, kind of safe to say, last year Viborg Hurley was such a fun story. Getting in as the 8th seed, knocking off Ron Colley, number 1 seed in the first round, and making a run all the way to the state championship and everything, and return a lot of those players back from last year's team. Obviously, now here they are. It's kind of a reversal of a role for those guys. I mean, everybody's talking about them. Everybody's wanting the shot at Viborg Hurley. So obviously in Class B, it starts with Viborg Hurley. Safe to say, right, Heath?
Yeah, Viborg Hurley is a team that I got to watch in the past 2 state tournaments, got to call 6 of their games, and go back to 2 years ago. They gave the whole entire, we're so thankful to be here, the yada, yada, yada. Things didn't go well for them, but they walked away with their heads held high and said, hey, we're a really young team. We just have more growth from here. And then going into last year, I can remember interviewing Molly Mason and the Aberdeen Ron Colley story. And she didn't necessarily say it, but she gave the whole entire rah-rah speech. We're just going to go out there and play our hardest, and we'll see what happens. You never know. And then all of a sudden, the craziness happens of it all. All of a sudden, they're being Aberdeen Ron Colley. You catch up with Coach Molly Mason afterwards, and she goes, we have a real good chance. And then one thing after another happens along the way, and they're hoisting this trophy up. And it's boom, just like that. They went from an 8 to all of a sudden, they are number 1. This was their year. And I think if maybe some people don't realize this, Molly Mason, the head coach of Viborg Hurley, was never really a big basketball coach. They just needed someone to fill in a few years ago. They looked at her because she was the one that was, coaching these girls when they were younger. She knew how to gel with them all. And they said, well, Coach Mason, how about you just, fill this spot? She said, I'll do my best. I really don't know a whole lot about high school coaching, but we'll give it a shot. And yeah, it's just been one of those success stories. And And that's kind of the thing is I thought with Class B, Ryan, and you and I have got this chance to, do the voting and everything like that. It seems like week in and week out, you look, okay, here's number one, and then who fills in the rest of the blanks. And I think that's going to be, I don't want to say the question, but that is the question. It's not who is going to knock off Viborg Hurley, but who's going to be playing Viborg Hurley in the championship game. I don't know if it would be as big of a shock, but I certainly would have to say it's right up there. If you have Viborg Hurley who goes to state and gets upset by the 8 seed, just like Aberdeen Roncalli last year. I mean, that was absolutely craziness. But yeah, it's going to be interesting when it comes to the state tournament, who can even get close to the Cougars this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cole, what about you? You see some of those teams down in that part of the state as well, like the Centervilles and some of those teams. Class B, how do you see that kind of shaking out?
Well, I mean, you guys kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, Viborg Hurley won, and then after that, it could be really any of the 7 teams that play. But I think some big regions to watch. I mean, you look at Region 2, Woolsey Weston's probably going to come out of that one as the number 1 seed, but then Arlington and Castlewood, 2 ranked teams, they're going to likely play each other there in that second round. And then Region 3, Howard and Del Rapids St. Mary, that should be a really good ball game. Howard won the very first game of the season against Del Rapids St. Mary 46-42, but that one should be good as well. And then Region 4 and 5, you can kind of look at it. I mean, Viborg Hurley obviously coming out of Region 4, and then Centerville should come out of that one, but they're going to have an interesting test against Freeman. Me having been able to watch Centerville most this season and actually call a few of their games, if Centerville's on when they're shooting, they can beat any team in the state. And I think that was one of their biggest flaws when they lost against Viborg Hurley, is they just couldn't put the ball in the hoop. So they're definitely a team to watch, but there's going to be some really good region matchups.
Yeah, absolutely. That, like you said, look at that one region, Region 2B, 4 of those teams, Woolsey, Arlington, Castlewood, and Dubrook, they're right there in the top 12 when you look at the overall seed points and everything. So a lot of depth in that class. Like you said, 3B, Ethan, Howard, Dells, St. Mary, and Coleman Egan are all kind of right there and everything. And I'll even go in 5B. Andy Central Dakota Christian and Wessington Springs Gregory and Corsica Stickney. Corsica Stickney, let's not forget, they've been on a pretty good run here recently with Avery Broughton and that crew. And obviously they want to get back to the state tournament. Her last year and everything. So some of those regions will be fun to see how they play out and everything. I guess, all right, we can wrap this up with maybe a sleeper. We can maybe make some championship predictions at a later date whenever we see some state tournament brackets and everything. But how about a sleeper in each class? Maybe a team nobody's really talking about or has kind of come on strong here as of late. I guess I'll start with you, Cole. Any sleepers that you kind of keep your eye on here in Class A and Class B?
Well, Class A, I'm really thinking maybe not just for regions, but in the state tournament as well, assuming they make it. Sioux Falls Christian, most of the season they come in, kind of under the radar, not really ranked until now. And I know when I was at the Sioux Falls Christian MVP game when they won by 35, I texted Heath, Sioux Falls Christian should be a ranked team. And I think they're really the only team I think that can give a run with Hamlin. I mean, they'll put Lems on Wadsworth inside. Then from there, it's going to be a shooting contest. I mean, in that Sioux Falls Christian MVP game, Sioux Falls Christian made 15 3-pointers. No matter who they put out, they're going to shoot and make it. And then in Class B, I think Andy Central Dakota Christian, I mean, maybe not much of a sleeper team because they're the 1 seed in the region, but they're a pretty deep team. They've had some tough competition so far this season, and I think they can put on a good run here late in the season.
Yeah. Heath, what about you?
I'll start with Class B. I really like Selly Buttes. They can be a very powerful team. You look back to their 3 losses, including a top 5 loss here late towards the end of the season. Otherwise, back-to-back losses in less than 24 hours for them. Back, I believe, middle of January, 12th and 13th for them. So the Chargers are an extremely good team. They're the one that could get through to the state tournament. They could be that one that like a Viborg Hurley, I was as a sleeper, you just didn't see them coming and they make some late noise. I do think though, if they are going to be that team, they're going to need things to go right for them. And they might need a little bit of help when it comes to the SODAC 16 reseeding of the pairings. Remember, it doesn't come down to what the media thinks. It all comes down to what the seed points give. Same situation kind of with Cole. I don't know if there's one specific team, but I've, of course, been Sioux Falls Christian. I won't get on my tangent there. Just like I said, I'm a Dak-12 lover, and I'll just keep it at that. I would be shocked. And the kind of scenario I have it right now, the top 3 teams, I wouldn't even put 2 of them make it into the state championship game. And I think one of them will, because of the upsets that will happen along the way. I'm just kind of looking at the way things are breaking down. I really think an example would be like a Hamlin. I think Hamlin has maybe 1 or 2 teams that could be their Achilles heel in the state tournament. And it looks like one of those 2 teams is going to meet them in the first round. So I think Hamlin's going to, God, I love them playing 5-girl basketball. And they're just bringing the best of the best out there. I love it. But I think they're going to be in a little bit of trouble. Wagner, same situation. My biggest question is, has they played the toughest of teams? And then Vermilion, man, oh man, I love Vermilion, but sometimes their offense decides to go take a nap, and all of a sudden they're going to have to get it done with defense, and you can't sleep when you get to the state tournament. So I think 1, 2, and 3 are going to have the hardest way of winning a state title. And like I said, I'd be shocked if 1, 2, or 3 even makes it there. And if one does, it'll be just one of the top 3 teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess for me, I'll kind of maybe Class A. I think Sisseton is a team 17-2, I believe. Yep. Have a nice win here to end the season against Florence Henry. Florence Henry was close to making the state tournament last year, lost in the Sodak 16, and Florence Henry's they're no slouch as well. I mean, I think that was a big win for Sisseton as we head into postseason play. So keep an eye on Sisseton. I think they're obviously going to come out of their region. We'll see who they get in the Sodak 16, but I would keep an eye on Sisseton. And then I'm going to piggyback off of what Cole said. I think Andy Central, Dakota Christian, again, they're the number 1 seed. So I don't know if they're necessarily a sleeper, but this seems like from a statewide kind of a sense, nobody really talks about them. 2 of their losses was to Wagner and Ethan. Obviously 2 very good teams in Class B and Class A. So I would say Andy Central, Dakota Christian would be my sleeper as we kind of get going here with regions and postseason and everything. So, all righty, guys, I think that should do it. We'll see what the next couple of days brings with basketball and weather and everything. One of the best times of the year is coming up at us. So we'll be in touch and we'll see how these games play out and everything. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.